Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. If I could have your attention, we'll go ahead and call the workshop session to order. First item of business is the New Hope Church appreciation. We do have a little item to read off, and we have some refreshments up here, so we'll start with that. Whereas the New Hope Baptist Church of Lampasas was founded on April 10, 1869 in East Lampasas, Texas, and whereas the location of the building sits on 0.152 acres out of Lot 7, Block 9, located in Old Town of East Lampasas, and whereas Author Law conveyed New Hope Baptist Church via quitclaim deed on or about June 25, 1890, and whereas 602 College Street has been the location of New Hope Baptist Church for many years, with many baptisms taking place in Sulphur Creek. Whereas this church has been a staple for the community for over 150 years, for a place of worship, fellowship, family gatherings, weddings, funerals, and whereas it is a blessed time in the life of the church family when they witness God's gracious direction and generous provision, and whereas Reverend Majors, Deacon Cuffey, several longstanding members of the congregation made the selfless decision to convey New Hope Baptist Church to the city of Lampasas as a historic landmark to continue the legacy. Now, therefore, on behalf of the City Council, I, T.J. Monroe, Mayor of the City of Lampasas, acknowledge the October 2021 conveyance to the Lampasas community on this day, April 25th, 2022. The City of Lampasas extends its appreciation and best wishes to the past and present members of this congregation who have worked so faithfully and given so generously and selflessly to the Lampasas community and entrusted the city as stewards for the continued blessings for our community. Thank you so much. Let's do. That's refreshing. Yeah. Okay, let's see if we can. Let's hurry. It is good. It is good. Okay, you guys tell me when we're ready to start back. Oh, we got Van Berry. I haven't seen Van Berry in 100 years. That's a good thing. His mother-in-law almost killed me. When I first moved here, we're crossing at an intersection, we had a right of way, and she turned, then she called and apologized. It was fun. We ready? Okay, we'll reconvene into the workshop session. Next item is discussion and updates related to the COVID-19 pandemic with Chief Smith. Always a pleasure, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Last time we met was April 11th, 2022, 2 weeks ago. As expected, the numbers continue to go down. As far as total number of COVID cases in the state of Texas, we're now at 5,537,853. This is an increase of 19,434 in 2 weeks. Lampasas County is at 4,758. This is an increase of 8 in a 2-week period. Before that, that's going to sound a lot larger. The last time that I reported to you, we actually only had 3 cases in that 2-week period, so we went up quite a bit here in the city of itself, in the county. Number of fatalities across the state continues to go down. State of Texas increased the fatality count by 242 during the last 2 weeks. The prior reporting session, we were at 373, and prior to that, we were at 819, so we continue to trend down as far as fatalities and cases all the way around. As far as COVID-19 patients hospitalized, state of Texas, this is down. We're at 752. This is down from 856. In our trauma service area, L, we continue to go down. We actually now have 15 cases that are in the hospital. This is down from 26. 9 of those are in regular rooms, and 5 are in ICU beds. We have 1 pediatric patient, no pediatric patients in the ICU. Vaccinations, as far as by zip code, we did increase quite a bit in the last 2-week period. We increased by 19. We're at 6,316 now. Fully vaccinated, we're at 5,571. This is an increase of 24 in that 2-week period. Across the county, we currently have 11,210 that have had 1 shot. This is up 45, and then we've had 50 more people that have completed their 2-shot regimen. So our total there is 9,719. Last bit of information I have to kind of ask of you. We've been doing this since COVID began, and I want to see if we need to continue to do this, if you want to continue to do it at every council meeting, if you want to do it in a less formal basis, or how you'd like to do that. I don't mind at all continuing to prepare these reports, come before you. That's simply up to y'all and what y'all want to receive from me on that.
Any comments?
I think we could do it probably by a report it's in paper instead of what you're doing, Chief. Okay. You don't want to take up your time for something that, yeah, the numbers are there, and if there's something that you see that is erratic, significantly erratic, then you need to bring it to us. But otherwise, COVID's kind of a mute point right now.
Well, I think it's important that we remain diligent about that, but I think that we're seeing the numbers go up as far as the vaccinations. I think that we're seeing the numbers come down as far as the cases. Keep in mind, there's a lot more home tests that are going on. So I think as far as actual cases that are being reported and recorded by the state, we're not getting that true number anymore. But the big thing, I think, is when we continue to see the hospitalizations go down, when we continue to see the fatalities go down, I think we're trending in the right direction.
Anyone else have any thoughts? Everyone in agreement?
I'll be submitting those reports to the city secretary, and she can forward those on to you from now on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next item is discussion regarding setting a time and a date for the council work session.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This was an item that we discussed at our last council meeting, and it's a kind of a continuation of it's a continuation of what we started talking about this past summer. But more recently, March 21st, and then we reviewed an update and timeline on March 28th. And then also on April 11th, we discussed the need to maybe focus on a few items, primarily those related to Fund 40 projects, gaps in funding. What staff heard is the need to kind of clarify our vision for the historic colored school, New Hope Baptist Church, in terms of their use and historic significance, and estimates related to skate park and Hannah Spring improvements. And I think it's also timely to include in this the starting points or the budget themes and priorities. I think is worthy of discussion maybe at an upcoming meeting. Based on your input on March 21, we would like to do this as efficiently as we can over about 2 hours, as well as try and start maybe at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, depending on your individual schedules. A date that seems to pop up, if we wanted to keep it on a Monday or an off Monday, is perhaps May 16th, but I would defer. Whatever date works for council is, staff is happy to accommodate. Or if you don't want to meet, that's fine too. But at this point, staff is assuming that this sort of meeting roundtable would be helpful, particularly at the
Kathy,
point we're at.
Is that 4 o'clock?
I can't on the 16th. I'll be in San Angelo for a case.
Okay.
I'm
16th, I'm good.
Everybody else is good? Do we want to make another date for Zach?
It doesn't have to be on a Monday. That's just, we have done it on an off Monday, but certainly any other time of the week.
I mean, if I don't go to trial that day, then I'll be back, but it's still up in the air right now. I mean, we could do that date, and if I get stuck out there, I get stuck out there.
Will it be longer than a day? Maybe.
If it goes, I think that we would be picking a jury on Tuesday morning, so I'd be announcing on Monday and staying out there overnight.
Finley, like you said, does it have to be on a Monday? Or
No,
can
not
we-
by any means. I mean,
That's where I think we get a little wrapped up in,
Right.
in a day.
The 19th, the only thing that we have going on is park board meeting at 6. We could do a 4 to 6 if that was in conflict. The 18th is LEDC. The 17th backs you up too much, but we can certainly go the next week. I don't know that we would do it May 2nd or the week of May 2nd. That seems a little tight for staff to be able to get prepared for it. But the week of the, the 23rd. We actually have council, I think we have council meeting on the 23rd. 16th you'll canvass, so 24th.
Is Tuesday any worse than Monday? For anybody?
Well, and that may not go. I mean, that next week I'm in jury trial here. I mean, I'll just try to figure out something.
How about a Tuesday of the next week after the 16th?
That would be the day after council meeting. That would be the 24th.
24th, Kathy? Well, forget that. Okay, how about the?
What about May 19th? Did you say 4 to 6 on the 19th, that Thursday?
Yes,
Oh,
but I don't think that. I mean, shoot, if we could even have one meeting up here and the Parks Board downstairs if we wanted to.
5:19 would work, Kathy, for you? You guys, 5:19, 4 o'clock,
Which day?
5:19?
That's Thursday, May 19th.
And check with Herb later, and if that's okay, let's go with that, 5:19, about 4 o'clock.
Thank y'all.
And-
Finley.
Yes, sir.
No, if I may, I just want to speak to something right quick. Finley and the mayor are doing this at my request, basically, from the standpoint of, at the last council meeting, I kind of walked away from here with a lot of confusion on where we were at on some projects. It got to be quite confusing in a way of the council's opinion and any direction that we were giving staff is what we needed to do. There's several hot-button issues before us that I think, not for Finley's purposes, but for the council purposes, that we need to hear all the details, allow all the council members to speak to it if they want to, and then take a consensus of opinion on where we're headed.
Absolutely, and I hope that you don't feel the council members have not been allowed to speak to any item.
I'm fine. I usually tell you what I think.
You do. And we're happy.
I'm not sure 2 hours,
Let's keep it at 2, and then
and see what happens.
questions, we've got plenty of time.
And I think the other thing that I've always told council is that expect some unfinished business, and that's our job, is to keep coming back and making sure that we
I
tie up
know
that business.
I know it's very hard, but the better you can tie down these costs that are just kind of hanging out there. First thing comes to mind is the skate park.
You bet. You bet. And I'll have an update on it, but again, I think everybody, every estimator, every engineer, every staff person just is hesitant to give you hard estimates or estimates that are based on anything that's over 2 weeks old, because it's just so volatile right now. But we will do the best we can and certainly update you.
And I understand that, and I appreciate that.
I think it'll give us a starting point on some of these things that
You bet.
Are we all good?
we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Finley. Next item is discussion regarding Chamber of Commerce biannual report. Ms. Melissa?
Yes, thanks, council, for having me this evening. It's a busy week, so I know it is for me. I'm sure it always is for y'all. So I'm going to open up the floor to any questions based on the report that I presented last week. So if anybody has any questions concerning any line items or member counts or statistics as far as the analytics for the website or anything of that nature, please feel free to ask those, and I will.
Not a question, but I did want to
Yes.
compliment you. It sounds like you're keeping your members. You've
Yes,
got
ma'am.
more than you lost, and that's always a good sign.
Thank you very much. Yes, and I did put a few notes on the report, just indicating that some of those had closed and moved to different areas outside of Lampasas, or a lot of them, and to be quite honest, a lot of them look at the chamber as a marketing entity and agency, and so a lot of them have either too much work right now and they're not looking to get marketed or promoted, and so they feel as though that they have no need for the chamber.
Nice problem to have.
Yeah, it is a nice problem to have, but then on the flip side of that, a lot of them need employees as well, and so a lot of them are just in the conundrum of day-to-day operations and can't think really past the next day. So we can help with both of those issues, but a lot of people, you know, they need it when they need it, and a lot of them will come back, so.
Did any of us have questions for Melissa about her report?
All right.
Lots of information.
Thank you so much. I know there is a lot of information, and I try to be, I know it's tedious, but I try to be very transparent. So hopefully, if you did have any questions, they're answered within that report, so.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item, discussion regarding any item on the regular agenda. If no one has any discussion, do we want a break? We'll just continue on.
Continue on.
I'm sorry, sir. Not yet? Okay. Okay, so we will now call to order. We'll adjourn the workshop if someone will give us a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll call to order the regular session. Chief Cummins, would you please lead us in prayer?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with great thanks, with open heart and minds. We just ask that your will be done here for the betterment of the community and all of your people, which is ultimately the betterment of you and your cause. We ask that you'll be with communications on both sides and that good works can be done. We thank you today for the appreciation of the New Hope Baptist Church and the message that it brings. A lot of good things have happened there for you and for the community. We ask that you'll be with us tonight in safety until we can meet again. Forgive us of our sins and bless all of our efforts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
We do have some proclamations today. Municipal Clerks Week is May 2nd through the 8th, 2022. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. Whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, T.J. Monroe, Mayor of Lampasas, do recognize the week of May 1 through May 7, 2022 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our Texas Registered Municipal Clerk, Becky Sims, and to all municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Thank you, Becky. At this point, we will have citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the City Council on a matter not included on the agenda may do so at this time. The City Council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item. We have Clifford Dalton.
Hello, Council. I'm just a guy that has a hard time talking and everything, and I have a hard time putting sentences together and everything. And I just want to say that the police always bother me. They still poison me all the time, and when I went to Oklahoma to visit somebody, they still poison me out there too. And you know, I think they call up the people to tell them, watch out for him, he's coming here. So anyways, they poisoned me. And also my car was damaged, and it's damaged. I took pictures of my car, and everything were damaged yet. Busted my windshield, they busted my tried to bring, took a block like that, threw it to my window, and they tried to do that, and two rocks, big rocks, to my, and they shot my car with a BB gun. I got a statement from the lady here, had the same thing done to her. She said she lives next door to the guy, and they I got the paper here so you can read. And they didn't. Police erased everything on my phone. Everything on my phone. I can't find nothing on my phone now because my phone don't work. Period. And also, I had my text my girlfriend, and they erased my messages didn't go through and everything, and they did something to my phone and everything. So I also I want to say that I'm just confused about everything. I don't know. I'm just trying to talk. I can't talk that well, but I'm trying my best to talk to you. And I was thinking all the stuff they done to me. They did a lot of stuff to me. They did a lot of stuff to me. So, anyways, it's stuff like I can't think that well. Can't think that well. Can't think that well. What they did to me, they did a lot of stuff to me. A lot of stuff and everything. So, I'm just sorry for everything. I'm just sorry for that I come here and everything. I'm sorry to bother y'all, but I tell you the truth. Tell you God's truth. I always try to tell the truth. I believe in God. I believe in God. I'm born. I'm a creator. I mean, I'm a person that knows. Just a person that been forgiven of his sins. Yeah, and everything. So I gave my life over to the Lord and everything and that's what I did. And I don't know. I'm just confused. I'm confused, and I'm trying to talk to you. I don't know how to talk. I can't talk to you well because this is my second time talking to you, and the first time I talked to you, and then I couldn't talk to you, so I said, no, I can't talk to you. So second time, I went to see the police chief. I went to see the police chief, and she said, come and see me. Come and see me the next day. And I said, okay, I went to see her. I'll be waiting for you. So I went there, and I've seen her. She wasn't there. She wasn't there. She wasn't there at all. So I'm confused about everything. So I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for everything.
Sir, we appreciate you coming. We cannot speak to you about your complaints at this point, but we will refer it on to the right people, and someone will be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Okay. And I took pictures of my car and everything. They erased all my pictures on my phone.
Next item is citizen comments. Anyone who desires to address the city council on a matter that is on the agenda may do so at this time. No one? 2.1, discussion and possible action concerning approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on April the 11th, 2022.
I didn't see any corrections. Recommend approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We do not have a consent agenda. We have a board meeting, department report. Mr. Van Berry for the golf course. Welcome, Van.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I really am. I'm not here much.
We see you once every
Glad
year.
it's my month. I just wish it had been somewhere where we were a little more busier. But anyway, so at the golf course, as y'all can see, normally on my reports, a lot of it's the same stuff, but I always put some of this stuff down where we apply our gypsum and our potash and stuff. And the reason for that is because our water is not even though we've got a lot of water, it's not very good. So we have to apply this. And we're kind of banking on the rain today because we actually applied some more today and we didn't get it. But nevertheless, we water and every night. And then actually we've been checking on our water usage here for this time of year. And normally during July and August, we use 1.2 to 1.3 million gallons of water. And we're using that right now, as dry as it is, to keep things going. So it's, I mean, we've got plenty of water. We're just starting to use a lot of it. The bad thing about putting that much water down is it's got a lot of salt in it. It builds up in the greens and it's not good for the grass. So that's why we have to put all this product down. Also, I don't know if y'all are aware, but the Hancock Park Golf Association voted here a few months ago to build a small pavilion at the south end of the golf course, not the south end, but south end behind the pro shop, We actually have a scoring area there where we keep our post scores for tournaments and stuff. But anyway, Warren Thornton's company has poured a 20 by 30 slab, and they're gonna install it's gonna be basically a small pavilion is what it is, with a roof on it, and then it's kind of eyebrowed down the side. And that's where we're gonna do our scoring. And they actually brought the steel into last week, so I'm hoping this week they start putting the steel up. Our goal is to have it up before our big Memorial Day tournament at the end of the year, which it shouldn't be any problem. It should be up by then. But the association did pay for the entire bill on that, so, and we appreciate them. Also, we had our tournaments for March, or April and May is kind of when our tournaments start up, but we do have a couple of high school tournaments. We had a high school tournament, the district tournament, March 28th. We had 75 golfers for that, and then we had the junior high invitational, and we had 55 golfers for that. Speaking of the high school tournament, the boys both went to regionals last week. Boys didn't do very well. Team-wise, boys and girls didn't do very well, but Shaylee Wolf is going to state as an individual, so she did well. And then I just kind of jotted down some of our memberships that we have. Our memberships run from January through June and from July through December. And so from this time period, from January 1 through June of this year, we have 163 single members, 35 couple memberships, 9 family memberships, and then also our cart sheds, we have 132 of those. And then trail fees, that's what the members pay whenever they have their golf cart, they pay a certain fee. We have 164 of those. And those numbers stay right around the same every year. They haven't strayed 1 or 2 very far at all. So those numbers are very consistent. And really, that's about it, other than we've got our tournament season's coming up. We've got pretty good sized tournament May 7th. And then obviously we have our Memorial Day tournament. It's our 71st year, the AC January Memorial Day tournament. We'll have 192 golfers in that. And we've got about 20 tournaments this year. About 4 or 5 of them are 2-day tournaments, where it takes up the entire weekend, but the other ones are just 1-day tournaments. And not saying they're not big tournaments, they're pretty good sized tournaments. So it'll bring a lot of people into town. So and my guys are busy outside right now mowing, and we've been trimming trees, and we're busy. In fact, we need a rain because we've quit trimming because our brush piles are getting too big. So.
Van, are we okay on the cart trails? I know last time you were up here, it was kind of
Well, we do,
an issue.
no, yes and no. We do, I have $10,000 every year in my budget, and then usually the association matches it every year. So I usually have about $20,000 to do cart trails, and it sounds like a lot of money, but it really doesn't go that far. This last time we did it, number 12 and number 13, which is on the north side of the creek, right off of 281. Those 2 holes, we did the entire cart trails there. But we're working on them every year as far as getting new ones in. But yeah, we've still got a little ways to go. Some of them, and the streets department helps us out a lot. They bring us a lot of coal lay, and they'll pile it up over there, and my guys go out and they patch a lot of cart trails. So, but no, to answer your question, we still got a ways to go on that.
Okay, thank you. Helps at budget time.
Anyone else have any questions for Van? Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Next item is City Manager's Operational Report.
Mayor and Council, just a couple of items to comment on based on the memo that's included in your packet. Hostess House, I believe I did send you out an email update. That was after the publication of my memo. Basically, we indicated in the memo that the turnout wasn't great. We had 3 contractors represented in the pre-bid meeting. And I think the one thing that came out of it was the means and method for that structural remediation was probably going to require some sort of breach of the floor. And then not necessarily the maple floor, but the floor that has the laminate tile on it as well as plywood. Our whole idea was that we could do the structural remediation without disruption to bookings, and that was still our goal. We don't have anything after October, and so we felt like it was in our best interest and perhaps more cost-effective if we were to allow those contractors to work unimpeded. In other words, not just on a Monday through Thursday schedule so that we could use that facility for weekend bookings, but so that we might be able to tell them they can work unimpeded 7 days a week, et cetera. So we made the decision prior to the bid date to go ahead and push that back. And we feel like that the timing will actually push the bid back maybe 6 months at most, so that we'll be able to do that project during what is kind of our slower time at the hostess house.
How's he gonna breach that floor?
You'll have to cut a hole in the floor to get to the.
Are we gonna take the laminate all the way up?
The laminate?
The flooring, the wood flooring?
That part of the project will be redone anyway. That's all part of the renovation and addition scope. So it's, again, it's to the east side of that building, so that'll all have to come up anyway.
Okay. So it's already, that's not an additional cost?
No, we think we'll actually save, we'll get perhaps more favorable bids if the contractor does not have to work on a specific schedule, as well as can work unimpeded. Again, we were going to try to do the structural remediation and also maintain our current bookings, because of the structural remediation was going to be underneath that flooring.
Okay, and obviously he didn't realize that they were gonna have to tear up the floor.
They were underneath that floor too, but I think the more that they talked to the contractors, the less likely contractors were going to like working 4 days a week, as well as not being able to breach that floor.
Well, I don't have a problem with shutting down while you're doing that, but the breach of the floor is something that I don't think we've, I don't think there was anything in the drawings originally for that, was it?
No, sir. No, it simply said, the means and method, as well you know, is up to the contractor.
Right.
And as we began talking to the contractors, that was certainly a means and method that would be more efficient for them.
Okay, it just surprises me that the structural engineer didn't realize that. Okay.
The other thing that I did want to report on, you have made a request regarding the plan set for the renovation and addition. That is in progress. I think Antonio would like to meet with staff within the next 2 weeks to review progress, and we will certainly report back to you as soon as we have some information. Citizen comment, we did receive some citizen comment at the last council meeting, and I just wanted to report back to you that Ryan Ward, Assistant City Manager, did follow up on that related to safety concern in and around, I believe, the Pecan Grove Apartments, as well as possible need for traffic control at 4th and Western. Mr. Ward has reviewed the sites, contacted the city. He's also contacted TxDOT, although we don't believe that there's any possible warrant for any traffic control at 4th and Western. We at least wanted to make sure the citizens' voice was passed on to TxDOT. West Avenue C project has started. That's a CDBG Community Development Block Grant project to replace about 3,300 feet of sewer line. We originally approved that contract December 13. We will expect some normal disruptions. It seems like we've been working on Avenue C or Avenue E or Avenue D for years. So this will be maybe folks have gotten used to the disruptions. Mike Blair is also the inspector on that job, and he's working hard, as well as a contractor, to make sure we can keep those streets open as much as possible. Business Park, good progress on the road and drainage construction. As council was informed, the notice to proceed was issued April 11th. Grubbing, rough cuts, compaction have been initiated in addition to the excavation for the detention pond. We will be looking at one minor adjustment to road construction off of, for the entrances off of South 183 to allow for a future dedication, only if warranted, for an XL or a decel lane. Skate park, and of course we look forward to a more specific and more detailed conversation about this on May 19th. But again, we did do some initial investigation regarding the estimates for excavation and pad for that skate park. The estimates Chris received were in the neighborhood of $70,000 to $75,000. That's still a very significant cost. However, it's about 25 to 30% less than the skate park contractor estimated. And the additional costs above the skating surfaces itself were related to connection by sidewalk and hardscaping to the parking area. We would like to follow up and certainly look forward to additional direction from council at the upcoming planning meeting. The Trail of Tales, this is something that was highlighted in the city manager's report on December 10th. Just wanted to give you an update on that. So we continue to make progress. Shand and Chris are waiting for acrylic page covers prior to placing stories in the series along that trail. Just as we indicated, we did get some assistance from LCRA volunteers to place those posts. So looking forward to that project, hopefully getting done and having our public enjoy it. Early voting started today. Please get out and vote. If you are interested in being around for results, normally they have results between 8 and 8:30 at the county election office, and that would be on May 7th. LEDC, as you can might imagine, with the progress that's being made at the business park, a lot of their agendas have been set up related to land use regulations, covenants, zoning, design standards. I think the other thing that Mandy has also been working very hard at is the means and methods, options for conveyance and marketing of the property. And as we all suspected, as soon as dirt starts turning, the phone starts ringing, so that's a good sign. The other item that the board has taken up is that they will look at draft amendments to the LEDC Life Safety Grant application and conditions. I just want to maybe give you, in the next item, a little editorial in terms of our code staff, and I know that council, all of you have had the opportunity, I think, to meet and talk with folks involved with development going on in town, whether that's Frank Ellett or Becky, or in some cases Mandy. And we want, you know, there are just a couple of tidbits that we want to make sure, and I want to make sure that's reinforced to you, is that, you know, in general, any public safety or enforcement positions a lot of times come under criticism for, you know, having undue burdens put upon businesses or our residents. But I want you to know that our staff works very professionally. We stop what we're doing to go meet with people. Frank was in town on a Saturday, headed back to his house. He got a phone call, and a contractor said, "Hey, we just got notification that concrete's going up Tuesday. Can you possibly take a look at my rebar today?" Frank turned around, went to the site, and again, this is something he didn't have to answer his phone. But these contractors, particularly the ones that know what they're doing and know that Frank understands that if concrete's going up, it's going to be money out of that contractor's pocket, and he may not be able to do as much work on a job. So we turn around and we come in and take a look at rebar and sign off on it so that they can pour Monday morning before the price of concrete goes up. So I just wanted to pass that on as one example of the job those folks do. And certainly if you have any complaints from folks, please pick up the phone and call Frank. Pick up the phone and call me. We'd love to hear from you and love to talk to you about some of the great things that are happening there. Payser ratings. We have completed and mapped some Payser ratings for city streets. This is thanks to an effort by Ryan Ward, and I've given you a little example about how that shows up on your GIS. Obviously, the state roads are not indicated in terms of a scale or a color, or whatever color they are may not align with what we have down there from black to red, yellow, blue, and green. We think this is going to be particularly very helpful as we go through the CIP and the budgeting process, and maybe a little tweaking on that, but anything else you'd want to mention on that item?
I think it just gives us a good opportunity to take a look kind of holistically at what we have out there as far as our roads and what kind of condition it is. Excited to share that.
On trails, this is something very initial, but however, it's something that we wanted to provide to you this evening in terms of an update, because that's one of the things we said we would do when we put together that timeline on March 28th. But we have, Chris and Ryan have done some walking, riding, and mapping of those potential routes that we're looking at for trails, basically from the senior center to Campbell Park, whether that's through an urban trail and sidewalk, or what options we have in terms of along the creek. I think everybody would like to see something along the creek, but we certainly have some challenges in terms of topography on the west side of the creek, as well as easements that would be required on the east side of the creek. We'll continue to review those options and look forward to spending some time getting some feedback from council at a future meeting on that. I also want to take the opportunity to recognize employees who began their City of Lampasas careers in April. Kyle Harrison, 3 years, Nick Gigley, 4 years, Daniel Waters, 19 years, Stephen Sheldon, 19 years, John Grantland, 13 years, Michael White, 13 years, and Renee Gramatsky, 9 years. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Finley. Appreciate it. I'd just like to say thank you to the staff and Becky in particular for putting our party on tonight. That was very well done. Thank you so much. We have no unfinished business. New business is 7.1, discussion and acceptance of the Chamber of Commerce biannual report.
Again, I didn't get a chance earlier to say I wanted to invite everyone this weekend to the Riata Roundup Rodeo and LTX Barbecue Fest out at 580 Sports Complex on Friday and Saturday evening, the 29th and 30th. And I wanted to take a minute to thank the city for all of their support. They do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, whether it's the Parks Department, the Fire Department. I met with them today on making sure that everything is ready for the weekend, and then the Police Department in regards to their security, but then also providing us with some supplies that we need for the weekend. So wanted to take a minute to thank all them for that. So on a side note, I know that's not why I'm here. So if you guys have any other questions that you thought about while I was, after I reported earlier, please feel free to let me know.
I'll consider a motion to accept the report in the amount of $24,546.84.
I move to make a motion to accept the report from the Lampasas County Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center biannual report for quarters 1 and 2 to authorize reimbursement for the amount of $24,546.84.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are there any questions of Melissa? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
7.2, resolution expressing support for the annual Spring Hoe Festival, establishing a time schedule and authorizing city participation. So I'll go ahead and read the resolution, and then you guys can tell me what you need. Whereas the annual Spring Hoe Festival is held in the city of Lampasas, Texas each year, and July 4th through the 10th has been designated as Spring Hoe Festival dates for 2022 by the Spring Hoe Committee. Whereas the City Council of the City of Lampasas has determined that activities in connection with Spring Hoe serve a public interest and that certain public facilities be made available for use during Spring Hoe. Whereas the Spring Hoe Committee is authorized to use certain public streets within the City of Lampasas for Spring Hoe activities, and that the Hancock Park Pavilion, the Hostess House lawn area, W.M. Brook Park, Gavin Garrett soccer fields, and portions of Riverview Drive be set aside for Spring Hoe activities. Whereas that special parking and use regulations of the street, Courthouse Square, outdoor pavilions, and parklands within W.M. Brook Park and Hancock Park on the dates of July 4th through the 10th, 2022, shall be reserved for Spring Hoe activities in the manner designated by the Spring Hoe Committee. Whereas the committee is specifically authorized to limit vehicles, groups, clubs, and vendors from the city areas utilized for Spring Hoe activities as the committee may see fit to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the participants. And whereas the Police Department of the City of Lampasas is authorized to enforce and limit the use of such areas as formally adopted by the Spring Hoe Committee in connection with the Spring Hoe activities. Now, therefore, I, T.J. Monroe, Mayor of the City of Lampasas, do proclaim July 4th through the 10th, 2022 as Spring Hoe Week in Lampasas, Texas, and urge all residents of Lampasas to support this annual citywide event. Thank you.
Do you want this, bring the schedule of events to council? Is that what you're asking? Okay. This wasn't mine, sorry. So we're just asking for a motion to approve the resolution expressing the support.
So moved to approve the resolution.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions of these two? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7.3,
And real quick,
ask for some money.
thank you, committee, for your work.
Discussion and possible action regarding hot fund request by the Spring Hoe Committee in the amount of $5,000 for the annual Spring Hoe Festival, July 4th through the 10th, 2022.
Recommend approval of hot funds if marketing plan is submitted outlining advertising outside the city of Lampasas, $5,000.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments, objections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
7.4, discussion and possible action regarding an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Lampasas combination tax. Lampasas, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. Series 2022, levying an ad valorem tax and pledging certain surplus revenues in support of the certificates, approving an official statement, a paying agent/registrar agreement, and other agreements relating to the sale and issuance of the certificates, and ordaining other matters relating to the issuance of the certificates.
Sorry, that's a mouthful. You can thank your bond attorney, Bart Fowler, right here, for the language. I have a brief presentation that we passed around that's also up on the screens here, just to talk about the actual bond sale itself. On the next page here, if you don't mind advancing for me, we had to go out and get the bond rating for the city updated. You had a AA- from Standard & Poor's, and no surprise here, they affirmed or reassigned that AA- existing rating to your old debt as well as to this new certificate of obligation. If you're sleepy later tonight, you can read through this, but it is a good financial summary of the city, its finances, the growth in the city. There is good information in there to kind of look at and see what they view to be the credit strengths and weaknesses of the city. They do talk about how you've added to your reserves and give you credit for that. That's a big factor in terms of maintaining this rating. There's a sort of stable outlook, it says here, then they have an upside scenario and a downside scenario on the next page there. And they do say that if the wealth levels and income levels in the community were to continue to improve, they could upgrade you. That's not something you can control. Obviously, you're a relatively small town, still growing, but small town in Central Texas, so you can't control that. What you can control, however, is your fund balance policy, your conservative budgeting, those things, as long as you continue to do that as you grow as a community in terms of tax base and income levels, there is a possibility of getting an upgrade from Standard & Poor's in the future. And again, they mentioned maintaining or increasing those reserves. On the downside scenario, they do mention, while that's unlikely to occur, so I'll put that in quotes, they don't see any reason why you would be downgraded. But that would be that if you were to go out and borrow a bunch of money for different projects, it would sort of stress out your system. That could be one reason they would downgrade you. And well, they mention here decreasing reserves, so they keep coming back to those reserves. It's odd for us to say you should maintain reserves and hold them to satisfy the rating agencies. I mean, clearly you have money and you want to spend it on projects, but that is something that's helping the rating, so it's nice to have that 35% reserve policy that you have and be able to maintain that. You don't need to exceed it, but maintaining that will be helpful going forward. So skipping a couple of pages ahead, there's a sort of interest rate looking graph there. And this is where the sort of not great news comes in, but it's not going to be a surprise to any of y'all who've been watching the news what's happening with interest rates. A couple more. Thank you for advancing the slides. One more, I think, after this one. There you go. So this is a 10-year history of interest rates in the municipal bond market. That's the market that you sell in. And as you can see, that sort of green mountain peak looking line there 10 years ago is on the left, today is here on the far right. It's almost difficult to see that huge spike that's happening here on the right-hand side because it is over a 10-year period. But that's where we are today, and that's no surprise given what's happening in the market. Obviously, if you've been watching the news, the Federal Reserve says that they're going to increase interest rates every chance they get. They've talked about increasing it 5 to 7 times in this current calendar year. They've already increased it once. And they come back again in May and are talking about, instead of doing the traditional 0.25% or what we call a quarter of a point, talking about and actually increasing it 50 basis points or double that in May. So what happens when they start making those comments about increasing it that much? The market immediately prices that in. So we don't get the benefit if they don't do it next month, we still pay for it today. So what all that means there is on the upper right-hand side is that interest rates have been higher than they are today 49% of the time. So if you think about it in that way, we're kind of right in the middle of the average over the past 10 years. So although it's not as low as it has been a year or two ago, it's still kind of right in the middle or pretty close to average as to where we've been. What that turned out to mean on the next page is we went out this morning for a competitive sale. And a competitive sale, what we do is we tell bidders all across the United States, City of Lampasas is going to be selling at $6.5 million bonds. At 11 a.m. today, anyone who's interested and qualified and has the funds can bid on it. So you can see there that we received 7 bids, which in this market, which there's a lot of volatility, 7 bids is quite strong. And a credit to you all as well that people still want to invest in Lampasas. The winning bid there is from BOK Financial Services, which is a bank out of Dallas. It actually stands for the Bank of Oklahoma, but they bank out of Dallas. And then you can see they actually bid in conjunction with First State Bank of Burnett, which you're probably very familiar with. So this is a local bid. Which is very nice to see. They came in at this 20 years at a 3.26%. The sort of 7th ranked bidder there, what we could call the low bidder, is a 3.5%. So there's about 25 basis points between the two of them. One thing I will point out that's been very unusual since 2008 is that they did opt to buy bond insurance. So in these competitive sales, they buy it and they pay for it themselves, but it takes your rating up, your AA minus bond rating up, only 1 notch to AA. So not a very high notch, but the purchaser does pay for it, and the reason that they're doing that is because the market is so volatile. They want to protect it when they go out and they sell it in the secondary market. So they're paying for that. It is something that will be attached to this bond series itself, so I point that out because you'll see it in the documents, and it is unusual for us to have to do that again. The bond insurance market collapsed back in 2008 with all the financial markets, and we really haven't seen it. But traditionally on anything less than sort of AA+, we've started to see these bond insurance policies come into play. So they did buy it, and just wanted to point that out to you. Next page here, we go through a couple of different slides. Actually, just go ahead and skip to the last one if you don't mind. This is the debt service schedule when we plug in the interest rate. Mostly staff will be concerned about that. And then this last page here shows you the money, where it's going. We are borrowing $6.425 million. I know that seems strange because we are funding $6.5 million worth of projects, but that's because they put in a reoffering premium of $253,000 there on the right-hand side. So that reoffering premium essentially means they're attaching a higher coupon than reoffering yield to it. So when they go out and they trade it in the secondary market, it protects the price of it and they don't lose money because they are holding these bonds until it closes, so they have to go out and sign their order tickets and take on that risk. But as a benefit of doing that, they're giving you a little bit more than what the actual projects cost. That covers the issuance cost so that you're still getting the full amount of $6.5 million for your project cost, and then those issuance costs, which are listed down there under use of funds as well, are being paid for out of that reoffering premium. The premiums are standard in the market. We've had that the last several deals for Lampasas, but because it looks a little bit different in terms of you're borrowing $6.5 million, but it's a $6.425 million par amount, I wanted to point that out. Assuming that council decides to move forward tonight, these bonds will deliver or close on May 19th, and that's when the money, it'll go through the Attorney General's office with your bond attorney. That's when the money will be available to City of Lampasas to start spending. So happy to answer any questions. Obviously, we would like to have a lower interest rate because we're used to lower interest rates, but When we think about it, there was a time when anything below 5% was considered very good, so still selling it at 3.26 for 20 years is still pretty good. And there is the option after 9 years, should interest rates drop within that time period, that we can go out and refinance this for savings, or you could simply pay it off early, should you have extra funds to do so as well. So most of this, again, $5 million is for utility-supported projects, and $1.5 million is for INS, or tax-supported projects. So that allocation will be reflected in the numbers that staff has, so they can set those rates accordingly based upon what the final uses were. So happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, Bart Fowler, your bond attorney from McCall, Parkinson, Horton, is here as well.
How long does it take for reissuance? What
was the question?
Reissuance? How many years?
It's 9 years before we can go
9
back
years?
and refinance it. Yeah, there's a call protection on the first 9 years. It used to be traditionally 10 years that they wanted the call protection, and we've been trying to shorten that as much as possible. So after 9 years, you can prepay this solely at the city's option for any reason, in whole or in part.
So we could get a motion and a second, and then we can discuss it. And then whoever makes the motion, if you don't like it after that, you can always vote against your motion. So how about a motion and a second?
Do we need to read it just like it's stated in here?
Please.
I would motion to consider to approve the first and final reading of an ordinance authorizing the City of Lampasas, Texas Combination Tax and Revenue Certificates of Obligation Series 2022, levying an ad valorem tax and pledging certain surplus revenues to support the certifications, approving of an official statement, a paying agent/register agreement, and other agreements relating to the sale and issuance of the certificates, and ordaining other matters related to the issuance of the certificates.
Thank you, Randy. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there questions now that we would like to ask Jennifer? I'm assuming there are no early payout penalties. If we should come into a landfall, we don't get penalized for paying this off early.
No,
right?
excellent question. That's correct. Should you decide after 9 years, or even after whenever it may be, that you want to pay this off, there are no penalties for doing that. It's at what we call par. So if you're paying off $100,000, it costs you $100,000 plus accrued interest till the date. So
Sure. Right.
So am I reading this right on the total debt service, that the interest over the 20 years is going to be just under $3 million on the 6.5? On page 4?
For the 6.425, the interest component is 2.897 million, so just under 3 million.
So it would be almost half of what?
Yeah. Assuming that you let it go the full 20 years. Does that seem?
I guess, I don't know, I guess I'm just not seeing that right. I don't know. So the interest rates, we're saying it's going to be around 3.2%?
Yeah, but it's starting to accrue on the back end of it, and so the way we have it structured is that it's a level annual payment per purpose, so it's a little bit different actually on the tax side than the utility side. But because most of the principal payments are occurring heavily toward the back end, to have that sort of level structure, it will never equate as just 3%, because it's back end loaded. The average life's a little bit longer.
And so we're talking about the coupon here. I mean, is that the actual interest rate on there?
The coupon is what the city is paying, correct? Yes, sir.
Okay. So for 10 years of that, it's at 5%.
That's right. So when you average it all out, when I say it's 3.26%, that's the true interest cost, which takes into account the reoffering yield and the coupon amounts based on the average life of each principal payment. So we can do it in Excel, but I couldn't just do it speaking out loud to structure it that way. I mean, we have software that does it. I don't do it in Excel, but if we wanted to go over it, we could do it in Excel to show you how it all would accrue. And I will say as well on this point is that in a traditional market, the city would almost never pay the full 2.897 million in interest because, the way these things are structured, they have the higher coupons up front, but after 9 years, when it becomes callable, instead of looking at a 20-year bond, at that point, we're looking at an 11-year bond with the yield curve obviously reflecting the shorter term there. So in almost every case with City of Lampasas as well, we pay off bonds prior to their maturity. So although it looks like this is a lot of interest, hopefully at the end of the day, it won't end up being that much.
And typically, we are able, thank goodness, that we are able to pay those down at the end of the 9 years, and we have in the past saved a substantial amount of money. Right now, I can't remember, $200,000 or $300,000 each time, $200,000 or $300,000.
Yeah, and in fact, every bond issue that's become callable, I want to say we have prepaid when it's become callable. Now, this market's going to be a little bit different, but again, still the shape of the yield curve is that we're talking about shorter terms when it becomes callable at 10 or 9 years, so it should still make sense. I don't recall what those savings were last time, but we never do them unless they're at least 300-ish.
Some substantial amount
plus.
of money.
Yeah, because there's issuance costs, and so we wouldn't do it to just break even.
Yeah.
So that's something that we can put together how much you've saved over, say, the last 10 years. That sounds right. I mean, it's definitely not cheap. I think that's why people, only borrow when they have to. It was, I will say too, we got a little spoiled because it was cheap, right? The last couple of times you've issued 2%-ish, somewhere in there. That's not quite free money, but getting closer to it. This is more of a traditional market. But I think this point starts to equate more like your mortgage, right? And if you look at it that way, it's probably the same on the mortgage payments. When you get your monthly bill, you see what's going to principal and what's going to interest. And it's like, well, that doesn't seem right, but it's the structure as well.
Does anyone else have any questions for Jennifer? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ma'am. Seven point five, discussion and possible action regarding a sunshade installed at the animal shelter, fully funded by the Friends of the Lampasas Animal Shelter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The fall of last year, we actually, Sammy Bailey and Frank Ellett with the animal shelter staff, they all met and kind of talked to the Friends of the Animal Shelter about a sunshade, and they decided on what they wanted to do going forward, the placement. But at that time, I don't know what happened, but I don't think funding was available at that time, or something happened with moving forward with the project. So they brought it back to us now, and they are ready to proceed. Again, it is fully funded through the Friends of the Animal Shelter. We have had Frank involved, the building official, so he will make sure that it is built to standard. It's safe. It's just a sunshade for the animals to keep them in the shade during the summer. But we are asking that you approve for the Friends of the Animal Shelter to continue and proceed with this project. Again, it is not being funded by the city. It is completely by that organization.
I'd consider a motion.
Motion to approve the purchase and installation of a sunshade at the Lampasas Animal Shelter by the Friends of Lampasas Animal Shelter, with the understanding that the project will go through the building department to ensure compliance with building codes and inspections.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
Do we need to waive a permit fee?
We don't normally charge ourselves, so we're good.
Any other? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Be sure and thank that
you.
group for their service.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. They did it before, like in 2018.
Right.
So it's very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. That looks like all of our agenda items. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.